This is Black Mental Health Matters. I'm Dr. Kerry-Ann Williams. I'm a psychiatrist practicing in Massachusetts, and this is a podcast that's about everything related to mental wellness in the Black community and beyond. Do you struggle with low self-esteem, inferiority, or are you still trying to find your purpose? Today, I'm interviewing Mr. Drexwell Seymour, author of the book and short film, Rise Up and Take Your Position. Mr. Seymour is a certified public accountant and the managing partner and founder of the HLB-TCI accounting firm. He has dedicated much of his time to inspire, encourage, and influence others to overcome setbacks and systemic injustices and to find their purpose in life. He has a YouTube channel and a weekly radio show called Financially Speaking. He is from Turks and Caicos Islands, where he lives with his family. So welcome to the show, Drexwell.
Thank you, Dr. Kerry. It's a pleasure to be here.
So how did you get into this area of talking to people about their purpose and about overcoming obstacles?
Wow, that's a lot. That's a good question. It's a long story because I tell you, prior to getting involved in this, I was very timid, very shy. Then I was being hiding from the public. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I think I decided, someone came to my office to help them with something. And then they were talking to me because I used to write, and then I discontinued writing after I was diagnosed with kidney failure. I really became depressed. And the person said to me, Drex, we need to tell your story. You need to write. And then a light bulb went off in my head, and then I started writing, and then people started to be inspired and started to be influenced and be encouraged. And then I continued doing that on a weekly basis. And then I started my YouTube channel, and that was the beginning of me getting to this platform.
Wow. So you basically took what was a challenging life circumstance and you shared with others what you used to encourage yourself, but also kind of helped to encourage them in the process.
Absolutely. Because I believe that, not just one person's going through a situation, there are many others, and people don't know what to do, even though you may feel like you're the only one going through it. But if you could help somebody else, I think that's what God wants us to do. Sometimes we're too selfish just thinking about ourselves, but we don't need other people to be in the same situation as us. And if our story could help someone, then we should share our story and share our time in helping others to get out of the situation or improve their situation.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is that when your story is what leads to the work that you do, it lends some credibility as well.
True.
What we don't need in the world is another kind of motivational speaker that hasn't really overcome anything in their life.
That's so true, Doc. That's so true.
So when you have done this work, what are some of the obstacles that you see other people struggling with? What are some of those top things that people tend to struggle with that you talk to, that you encourage?
Well, a lot of people struggle with low self-esteem, and of course, I struggle with that for many years. A lot of people are struggling with trying to please people. They're living their lives pleasing people in society or the standards that society has set, and because they're not at those standards or below those standards, they feel insecure, or they feel they have not achieved anything. So that's a big struggle. And another struggle people are struggling with is fear. People want to do so many things, and they believe that they're called to do things, but they're afraid. They're afraid to take the risk. They're so comfortable they're very comfortable in what they do, or they're just afraid. And I think fear is a big obstacle that people are facing. And if people could get over that fear element, I believe they're on their way to success.
Wow. No, fear is a big one, right? Because it seems like even a lot of what you talked about for obstacles, they're internal obstacles. This is mindset and emotions. And so when you think about the fact that this is not, oh, my obstacle is this person over here, the obstacle is within. It's me being afraid. It's me trying to please them.
Yes.
what are your thoughts about, how people get to this place where they're so afraid, where they're so kind of people pleasing? What have people kind of told you about how they, why why they kind of feel so bad about themselves, or they have this inferiority complex?
Well, based on my personal experience and based on what um, people tell me, I think part of the issue is, Dr. Kerry, is that um, we are under a lot of pressure to become something that we're not supposed to be. For example, people on a lot of you have some parents pressuring their children, say, to become a doctor or to become a lawyer, and that ain't what they really want to do. You have some people who have this gift, say, for art, but they're being told, well, you're not going to make no money from art. You need to find something that you're going to make money. And so those are the type of things that people are being pressured. And of course, even within the Black community, we're being pressured, not being pressured. We are being, there's a stigma associated with how light you are, how dark you are.
Yeah.
It's a big issue in the Black community, and it's forcing people to even bleach
Yes.
because they're not
Yeah.
happy with their skin color. So many things are. There are so many factors, and that is, if we could just find our purpose, mind our own business, don't care what people say about us. I think that's what we need to reach in our lives.
And that's so kind of challenging. I mean, when you kind of talk with people, what are some of your kind of top tips for where to start? Because everybody's journey is going to look different. What's your kind of like top tips for where people should start when they're on this journey of trying to overcome, these
Well,
internal issues?
right. Well, first, first of all, I tell people to, to listen to other people's stories. For example, my story, you could listen to my story, listen to other people's story, do some research, and realize that you're not the only one that's going through that. That's the first thing you have to accept, that other people are going through similar situations or even worse situations than you are.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that I find that really works for people and works for me is that you have to program yourself and tell yourself that you are important, that you have a purpose. Every day you wake up and you tell yourself that I am going to make it. I am somebody. Nobody is better than me. And that's part of the problem, is that we are living our lives thinking that, you know, we are inferior or we're insignificant. And you need to tell yourself you're just as important as anybody else. Tell yourself that until you believe it. And when you believe it, you act out on it and you start doing the things that you were called to do. Those are some of the things that I encourage people to do in order to the beginning stages of coming to realization of who you are as a person, and to overcome the obstacles that you face.
And I think those are two fantastic places to start. I mean, I'm going to start with the second thing you said, which is to kind of remind yourself of the fact that you're no worse, no better. You are just as good as everybody else. And kind of that idea of reinforcing this message in your mind every day. And if you don't believe it initially, keep telling yourself until you believe it. And that is a legitimate kind of therapy strategy, that we encourage people who have anxious mindsets, fearful mindsets, is to kind of overcome their fear by challenging that mindset that makes them afraid, that makes them feel put down, to basically challenge the lie that somehow someone's better than you because of some way that they look or some way they were born or whatever. That doesn't make them any better. And kind of reminding yourself of that, and thinking of, as you mentioned too, kind of thinking about other people's stories, is it's going to inspire, and it will kind of connect you with things that you've experienced in your own life. So it's I think those are two really great places to start. People are inspired by other people's stories, and it makes them know that they're not alone. In this at all. And I feel like that sense of being alone is such a dangerous thing. When you feel like you're the only one struggling with something, then you feel desperate. As you mentioned, people start using bleaching creams. They start doing all these kinds of things because they're feeling like, gosh, I'm the only one that struggles with this problem. It's like, no, let's hear some stories. Let's talk with some other people, and kind of not shoulder the burden by yourself.
Yes.
Now I wanted to kind of mention, sometimes on my podcast, I've kind of spoken about my own journey and mindsets that I've had to overcome as well. And a couple of mindsets that I had to overcome were the kind of a perfectionistic mindset. And that came from, I've kind of always had that my whole life, but going through training as a physician also kind of fueled this perfectionistic mindset. And it has its advantages, because as a physician, you do want to strive for perfection. People's lives are at stake, but then it would kind of spiral a little bit out of control. And then it would feel like what I'm doing is never enough. And do you ever talk to people about this feeling of like, gosh, what I'm doing is never enough? It just feels like I'm not good enough. Like that kind of sense of that purpose is missing. Do you talk to people about that too?
Yes. I think somehow it seems like that is something that's natural. You can always feel it's not good enough, or you're not doing your best. I think you can always have those feelings, and that's why I think it's important for individuals, to have goals, because you can always, it can always be like two minds, one saying this and other saying that. And if you could have established those goals, and if you could find out what your purpose is, and that you've achieved those goals, then you know that you've done enough. Or even getting feedback from other individuals, that the impact that you had in their lives, that in itself, I think, helps and goes a long way as well. But you can always have those sort of two minds, but you have to go with the right mind, which is to know that you have done your best, you have achieved your goals, and you're on your way to achieving your goals.
So kind of settling and being comfortable with that. I'm on my way. I've either achieved it or I'm on my way, and not to kind of get kind of filled with that pressure of and stress. Because
right. You can always have that feeling. So at some point you have to say, you have to draw the line. Enough is enough. You have to draw the line somewhere. Otherwise, you can always have those iffy moments.
Yeah. And it can cause so much stress,
Yeah.
so much stress on the body,
Oh, absolutely.
And so the other mindset that I sometimes talk about, I call it the productivity mindset.
Okay.
And in the US, we definitely have like this toxic productivity, burn the candle at both ends, a lot of positive reinforcement for working hard, working through lunch, kind of working yourself to a crisp. There's a lot of positive reinforcement for productivity. And have you, when you think about this kind of like productivity and perfectionism, do you ever talk to people about finding this balance between the realism of their limitations and when to kind of keep pushing harder? Because I think that's what I initially struggled with, was this sense of always just pushing harder. And sometimes I needed to stop and say, you know what, this is not something that I can do. I don't have the time for it, don't have the energy for it, just kind of that balance to kind of, again, keep grounded about, what I'm doing is enough right now. I don't need to do more. So do you talk to people about that balance?
Yes, I think yes, I do. Even for myself, sometimes I find that to be a challenge, because I have my own business. And so I find myself working, very late at night, even though I have employees. I find like I have to be the one, I'm here working sometimes like 11 o'clock at night. And then of course I have a family, we have 5 children. And so we have to reach a point in our lives sometimes in saying, wait a minute, why are we working so hard? Mm-hmm. Who are we working hard for? If something happens to you, if you die, God forbid, or you get sick, somebody's going to take over the job. Somebody's going to do it. And so you have to find a point where you have to say, listen here, I have to find a balance. My family is here. I have to spend time with my family. I also have to find time to rest, because if you're working so hard, it's gonna impact your health. If you're spending all the time at work, it's going to have an impact on your relationship with your spouse and your children. And so I encourage people to find a balance. Cut it off at a certain time. And when you go home, don't work at home. Work at the office, and then set up some time with your family. Spend at least say like one day of the week, spending time with your family. See like one day of the week to rest, because the work is going to get done. Somehow the work is going to get done. So it's important to find a balance. You have to ask yourself, why am I working so hard? What is it that I'm trying to get out of this? What is it? And if you have the answers, then you may realize, well, tomorrow it will be here. You could do it. You could cut off and continue tomorrow. And that's, I know we're under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of competition going on, and we're under time pressure, but it's not worth it in the end. If you're going to jeopardize your health, you're going to jeopardize your family time. It's not worth it.
Well, I think those are important questions. And actually made me remember something about that in the Bible. In Ecclesiastes, it's kind of this question of, the person who's working really late at night or working really hard, and they need to stop and ask that question, who am I working for?
Yeah.
What am I working towards? And when I die, someone else is going to just rise up and take my place,
Mm-hmm.
And so you're right. Like, you have to think about what I'm doing right now. Is it something that can wait until tomorrow? Or does it need to be done at all? Or
Mm-hmm.
can it be done by someone else? Can I delegate this? There's kind of all these different questions about, why am I doing this? To what purpose? What am I hoping to achieve? So I think those are really great questions.
Thanks.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of launch a little bit into this idea of purpose.
Right.
Because I think that's one of the things that as human beings, if we can't find that sense of purpose, then we end up working and feeling unhappy. Because we don't, as you mentioned, that same question, what are we working towards? We can't answer that question. What are we working towards? We could have a family and still be unhappy. We could have wealth and still be unhappy. And so this kind of whole idea of finding your purpose, how do you usually kind of talk to people about this concept of purpose, when you notice that that's something someone is struggling with?
Right. Well, first of all, we have to establish with individuals that I find, I cannot speak for everybody, your career does not necessarily mean it's your purpose. I think sometimes we believe that our career is our purpose. Now, for some people, it may, but for me, my career is not my purpose. It's a job that I'm doing. It's something I was trained to be. I thought it was part of my purpose until I realized what my purpose was. It's not. And so discovering your purpose to me is something that you go to bed thinking about. You wake up thinking about. You get excited about it. To me, those are steps that what you're thinking about and what you're passionate about is the road to your purpose. And so that's how I end up discovering my purpose. I love to encourage people. I love to inspire people. And now I realize that is my purpose in life, which is to encourage, inspire, and influence people. And I only discovered that about 5 or 6 years ago. Of course, my career, I could use my career to help me to achieve my purpose, because I'm hiring people, I am in training people, and I could do that as well. And so I think that's what we need to find, that thing that you're really, really passionate about. You just can't stop thinking about it. More than likely, that is the road to discovering your purpose.
No, that's amazing. I think that's so true. And I think it kind of ties back into what we spoke about earlier with the things that hold us back. Because someone might be thinking about their purpose or thinking about something they're passionate about, but then fear is holding them back.
That's
or
true.
Inferiority is holding them back. And they think, oh, I'm not good enough to do this thing. Or what if I fail? And they start to kind of like basically talk themselves out of it. And so I can see how all of these things kind of connect.
Yes.
And so, and what are some of the platforms that you use to talk to people? Do you talk to people one-on-one? Is it mostly through your radio show, your YouTube channel, or all of the above? How do you kind of reach out to people to share your story and to encourage them?
It's all of the above, but I mostly use my platforms, through my YouTube and through the radio show. However, after I show those shows, then I'll have people calling me and I'll do one-to-ones. And then sometimes I go into the schools because I think it's very critical to reach young people because during the development stage in life, it determines where they are at a very early age, and so that's something we need to tap into, so people could be those young people could understand um, their purpose in life because it's very critical those first 12 years of their lives, very very critical. So I use that opportunity to get into their face, to make them understand that they have a purpose, and so they could grow up knowing that they have a purpose, even if they don't know what it is at that time.
No, I really actually I find that to be amazing, and I am glad that you do that because I think back even to my own history. I grew up in Jamaica, and
Okay.
a lot of my formative years, high school and all of that. I believe that that is the beginning of where you begin to see what's possible in life.
Oh
That's the
yes.
beginning of where you start to learn about how to overcome fear and how to overcome inferiority, because it's in those early stages when you're a kid that you start to compare yourself with other people,
Yeah.
and you start to figure out what I'm good at and what I'm bad at, and you start to talk yourself down sometimes. And so to have someone to come to the school or to talk to young people and kind of say, listen, this is what life is like, but you can overcome it. You
Yeah.
can take these steps. You need to kind of have this mindset. Teens hold on to that. They remember that. They remember
Yes.
the guy that came to their school that told them this thing or that thing. They really do remember it. And even if they may not remember all the specifics of the day, the message kind of sinks in.
Yes.
And they can go into the world feeling more confident, feeling like, you know what, maybe I'm a little bit afraid, but I'm still going to apply for this scholarship. Maybe I'm a little bit intimidated, but I'm still going to apply for this graduate program
Mhm.
because, if I don't apply, then I'm guaranteed not to get in. But if I apply, then there's a chance I can get in, you know?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think that kind of encouragement for young people is absolutely essential and could
Yes.
change the course of the world.
Yes.
Sometimes you hear stories about really highly successful people, and they talk about this turning point, somebody who spoke to them or somebody they listened to on the internet. And that was a turning point for them. It made them take a decision that then changed the course of their life. So I think
Yes.
investing in young people is one of the best investments you can make.
Yeah. Thank you. Because at the end of the day, even for me, my life, suffering from inferiority complex came about because of my early years, and I grew up all these years thinking I was inferior because of my early years in life, and so it's important for us to deal with the people at the early years in their lives.
Well, where can people find you on social media? So your YouTube channel, what is the name of your YouTube channel?
It's my name, Drexwell Seymour, but I also have my own website, www.drexwellseymour.com, and I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn as well.
And I want to tell folks, definitely go check him out on YouTube. I did already watch some of his stuff, and it's
You.
really nice to watch. And thank you so much for coming on my podcast and talking about your story and why it's important for us to think about finding our purpose and overcoming inferiority and fear. And I hope that people will go and follow up and learn a bit more about what they could do and even reach out to you to get some additional, just kind of pointers and encouragement. I think the work that you're doing is really, really important and very
Thank
amazing.
you.
I'm grateful that you decided to overcome your fear and actually step into your purpose, because I think it changes lives.
It does. Yeah, it does. Certainly does. And thank you.
And so I don't know if you have any last words or anything.
Well, I just want to, I also have, I am now the author of 2 books. My first book, as you see in the background, Rise Up and Take Your Position. And in this book, it's on Amazon, where I encourage people to find their purpose, cultivate it, and, just rise up. And then The second book is a sequel, which just came out last month.
Oh,
It's called Succeeding in Your Position. Because what I did, I encouraged you to rise up and take a position. But now that you are in your position, you now need to succeed. Because many times some of us fail. Of course, there's nothing wrong with failing. You learn from it. But this book has 10 steps on how to succeed in your position, no matter what position you are, whether you're a husband, a wife, a pastor, a politician, an entrepreneur, a student, whatever position you're in. I think these 10 steps apply to you, and it can help you to become successful.
so it's now available. The second book is now available.
Yes, it's available. Yes, Succeeding
on
in Your Position.
Amazon as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I'll make sure to put that information on the social media pages so everybody can see that. And thanks again for joining me today.
Well,
And
thank you for having me.
And to all the listeners out there, thank you so much for joining me today. You've been listening to Black Mental Health Matters. I'm Dr. Kerry-Ann Williams. My guest today was Mr. Drexwell Seymour. Have a great week, and I will see you again next